Kelly Coffey has been in the banking industry for 26 years, but with her degree in international affairs and French, she never actually intended to go into the banking business. The CEO of JP Morgan's U.S. private bank joins me to talk about how she fell in love with financial services. Kelly, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Happy to be here.
So you kicked off your career at JP Morgan in M&A advisory in Argentina. So that's kind of a challenge for anybody kind of coming out of school for their first job. What was it like immersing yourself not only in a new culture, but also in a brand new career?
It was fantastic. It was one of my favorite parts of my career. I've had multiple careers, I feel like, all at JP Morgan, but that was exciting. I had graduated from Georgetown School of Foreign Service. I spoke French, which didn't make a lot of sense to go to Argentina. So it was a little overwhelming to learn another language and to also learn the business, but it was really exciting. It was an exciting time to be in Argentina. They had, the president was Menem at that time, and Cavallo was the finance minister, who in my eyes was just a rock star because he really brought stability to the country. And we did just incredible transactions. JP Morgan at that time bought the telephone company in the north of Argentina with some partners, France Telecom and Stet, the Italian phone company, and it was just like watching, even though I was learning finance, it was like watching international affairs unroll in front of my eyes, what I had really studied in school, different cultures coming together, different understandings. I found that my degree was actually really useful, even though I had to learn all of how to value a company and how to model a company in hyperinflation, which is pretty challenging.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. After working so many years with such a narrow focus when you were working on the Argentine deal market, you came back to the U.S., and then you had to kind of open up your focus and kind of be more broad-based. So what were the challenges there, and how did you kind of work through that, going from one, a narrow focus to a
broader focus? Yeah. That's a progression throughout your career. That's an interesting skill to learn. I thought about my career as I wanted to do interesting things, work with really interesting, smart people, and then build my skills. So just like I learned to value a company, when I came back, I was doing M&A for a while, and then I shifted over to the markets businesses, which JP Morgan had grown while I was in Argentina. Glass-Steagall had come apart, and we had received our debt and equity underwriting power. So that whole new industry for us had started, and I found it pretty fascinating. So I just jumped into it, and I learned ticker symbols that I didn't know. I didn't know Microsoft's ticker symbol when I went down to trade converts, but it was fascinating, and I had a lot of people around to help me too, and it was really exciting.
Did you find the environment really open and accepting, even though you were not really from that background? Was it easy to kind of transition into?
It was pretty easy. I mean, when you first start, it definitely, you have to remember that you'll figure this out. You need a certain amount of self-confidence to say, I don't know how to do this now, but I know I can get it.
Absolutely.
And every time you do that, that gets a little bit easier, because you say, okay, I don't know this, but I didn't know that when I started either.
And look how far I've come.
And exactly. Yeah. And so you have a little bit of skepticism when you start. I remember one of our convert traders, I couldn't, at what was called dollar nuca convert at that time, which is just adjusting it for a delta. And he looked at me like I knew nothing. And I said, okay, but you don't speak Spanish.
Yeah,
and
so
I do.
I have one on you.
I know, exactly. So I found it really fun.
I want to ask you, there's been all this talk around this increased focus on women in the workforce, especially in these male-dominated industries like Wall Street, like Silicon Valley. And you've done a lot at JP Morgan to kind of advocate for and mentor women there. What kind of change have you seen through your work with that in both the corporate mindset in general and at JP Morgan?
Well, there's been a tremendous change since 1989, but I actually have never felt disadvantaged because I was a woman. When I came into JP Morgan, again, I was learning skills. So if you were good at something, I always was lucky enough to work for someone who would reward you for learning that skill and being really the best at what you were doing. And that, I think, has continued. I know we certainly as an industry have had challenges, but I haven't had tremendous challenges on that side. But I do believe that sometimes women need a little bit of extra encouragement to make sure they have the confidence to go to the next level.
Right.
There's a lot coming at you, particularly when you're in your 30s and you're getting married and you're having kids and
you've
got a lot going on, and you just need that little bit of extra encouragement. So we've done a number of different things at JP Morgan. I ran the Women's Network in the investment bank, and that was a grassroots effort, and we had a group of senior women who came together, and we sponsored a number of women around the organization that were at that mid-level, and we knew they could get to the next level, and we just wanted to help and make sure they were building the skills they needed and they were getting the feedback they needed. So we stepped in and inserted ourselves there, and it really made a difference, I think.
So what would you say has been the most valuable lesson that you've learned throughout your time at JP Morgan?
It's hard to say that the one most valuable, but if I had to put it to one, it's just to have confidence in yourself and to be yourself no matter what you're doing. And I think sometimes I see this, not just with women, I say this to all of the young people I talk to. I spoke to one of our new associate classes this morning, and I said, you know, when you come into a place that's as big as this, be yourself. Don't feel like you have to conform to what somebody else is telling you. Look at how we're doing things. If you think we can do them better, you have a really great fresh perspective. We want to hear that. And having that confidence of coming in and saying, right, I don't know exactly how to do everything, but I have a view on this that I want to share, I think is what makes them really impactful in a business.
That's great advice. Great advice. Kelly, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.